Hello, my good friends. How are you today? May God bless you all. I will not introduce anything. You guys watch the video and feel it, then let's evaluate together. The air in Macon, Georgia, was thick and sticky that summer night 20 years ago. The kind of heat that clung to your skin and made every breath feel heavy. Layla Jackson, just 18, leaned back against the cracked vinyl seat of Caleb Hart's beat-up Chevy truck, her dark curls plastered to her neck with sweat. The windows were down, letting in the hum of crickets and the faint thump of music from the high school gym half a mile away, where the prom was still in full swing. She'd slipped out with Caleb, her dress, a cheap, shimmery thing she'd saved up for, hiked up around her thighs. Caleb, all lean muscle and restless energy, had one hand on the steering wheel and the other sliding up her leg, his blue eyes catching the moonlight as he grinned at her. "Layla, you sure about this?" he asked, voice low and rough, the way it got when he was nervous but trying to play it cool. She smirked, shifting closer, her skin brushing his. "You scared, Hart? Thought you said you'd make tonight unforgettable." He laughed, a sound that vibrated through her, and then his lips were on hers, hungry and urgent. The kiss deepened fast, tasting of cheap beer and the cherry lip gloss she'd swiped from the drugstore. His hands roamed, tugging at the straps of her dress until it slid down, exposing her smooth brown skin to the humid air. Layla arched into him, her breath hitching as he kissed down her neck, his stubble scraping her collarbone. She pulled him closer, fingers digging into his shoulders, and then they were moving together, clumsy at first, then frantic. The truck rocked slightly on its worn shocks, the springs creaking under their weight. Her moans mixed with his grunts, loud enough to drown out the crickets, her nails raking down his back as he thrust into her, sweat slicking their bodies. Under the big oak tree by the dirt road, with the moon spilling silver across her curves, they made promises they were too young to keep. "I'm gonna come back for you, Layla," Caleb panted afterward, still breathless, his forehead pressed to hers. "College ain't gonna change us." She believed him then, her heart pounding with love and the thrill of what they'd just done. But the next morning, he was gone, off to Georgia Tech on a full ride, leaving her with a fading hickey and a secret she wouldn't discover for weeks. When she lost their baby a few months later, alone and broke, she buried that dream under the weight of reality. Life in Macon didn't wait for promises. Now, 20 years later, Layla scrubbed the marble floor of Hart Industries' gleaming Atlanta headquarters, her knees aching against the cold stone. At 38, she was still striking. Deep brown skin that glowed under the fluorescent lights, hair pulled into a tight ponytail, and a body that carried the strength of years spent surviving. The gray cleaning uniform hung loose on her frame, but it couldn't hide the curve of her hips or the way her arms flexed as she worked. She kept her head down, earbuds blasting old-school R&B to drown out the hum of corporate chatter around her. It was late, past regular hours, but the night shift paid better, and she needed every dime to keep her tiny apartment in East Atlanta Village. The private elevator dinged, cutting through Mary J. Blige's voice in her ears. Layla didn't look up. Some exec working late wasn't her business. She dragged the rag across the floor, her rhythm steady, until a pair of polished leather shoes stopped right in her path. She yanked out an earbud, annoyed, and glanced up, ready to snap, but the words died in her throat. Caleb Hart stood there, all 6 feet of him, looking like he'd stepped out of a GQ cover. His custom suit hugged his broad shoulders, his sandy hair was slicked back, and those blue eyes, damn, those eyes, were locked on her. He was older now, lines etched around his mouth and a hardness in his jaw. But it was him, the boy who'd fucked her senseless in that truck, who'd sworn he'd never leave, who'd built a billion-dollar tech empire while she scrubbed floors to eat. "Layla?" His voice cracked, like he couldn't believe it either. She froze, rag dripping in her hand, water pooling on the marble. Her chest tightened, a flood of memories crashing over her, the feel of his hands, the taste of his sweat, the sting of his absence. She stood slowly, wiping her palms on her uniform, her jaw clenched. "Don't act like you know me, Hart," she said, her tone sharp enough to cut glass. "I'm just the help." Caleb flinched, but he didn't back off. "Layla, it's me. Caleb. Jesus. I thought—" "What? That I'd be waiting back in Macon with a picket fence and a damn pie?" She crossed her arms, her voice low but fierce. "You got your fancy life, I got mine. Keep it moving." He stepped closer, close enough that she caught a whiff of his cologne, something expensive, woodsy, nothing like the Old Spice he'd worn as a kid. "I didn't know you were here. In my building. How long?" "Long enough." She cut him off, turning back to her bucket. "I got work to do, sir." That "sir" landed like a slap, and she saw it hit him. His shoulders stiffened, his mouth tightened. But his eyes didn't leave her. They traced her face, her neck, down to where the uniform stretched over her chest, and she felt it like a touch, heat blooming under her skin. She hated that he could still do that to her, after all this time. "Mr. Hart?" a crisp voice interrupted. His assistant, a middle-aged woman named Diane with a tablet glued to her hand, appeared from the elevator. The boards waiting upstairs and the new cleaning crews causing a stir, complaints about noise. Caleb waved her off without looking away from Layla. "Tell him I'll be there in 5. And the cleaners. Handle it, Diane." Diane hesitated, her gaze flicking to Layla, then nodded and disappeared back into the elevator. The lobby was quiet now, just the two of them, the air thick with something unspoken. Layla bent down to scrub again, her movements sharp, trying to ignore the way his stare burned into her back. "Layla, wait," he said softer this time. He crouched beside her, close enough that she could feel his breath on her cheek. "I'm not letting this go. I need to talk to you." She snorted, not looking up. "Talk? You had 20 years to talk, Caleb. I don't need your pity party now." "It's not pity." His hand hovered near her arm, then dropped. "It's shit. I don't know what it is. But seeing you here, it's like the universe is fucking with me. Please." She stopped, her rag still in hand, and finally met his eyes. They were pleading, raw, and for a second she saw the boy from Macon, not the billionaire asshole she'd painted him as. Her throat tightened. She didn't want to feel this, didn't want the ache, the pull, the memory of how good they'd been together. "Fine," she muttered, standing up and tossing the rag into the bucket. "You got 5 minutes after my shift. There's a coffee joint across the street. Don't be late." His face lit up, a flicker of that old grin breaking through. "I won't. 6 o'clock?" 6:30, I gotta clock out." She grabbed her cleaning cart, pushing it toward the service elevator, her heart hammering against her ribs. She didn't look back, but she knew he was watching her go, those damn eyes stripping her bare. The rest of her shift dragged like molasses. Every swipe of the mop, every trash bag she hauled, her mind kept circling back to Caleb. She'd spent years shoving him down deep, telling herself he was just a ghost from Macon, a dumb kid who'd left her high and dry. But now he was real again, flesh and blood, standing in her world like he belonged there. And worse, her body remembered him. Every touch, every kiss, every thrust in that damn truck. She cursed under her breath, scrubbing harder, trying to shake it off. By 6:30, she'd changed out of her uniform into faded jeans and a black tank top, her hair loose and wild around her shoulders. The coffee shop, a hole in the wall called Brew Haven, was half empty, the smell of burnt beans and fryer grease hanging in the air. She slid into a corner booth, picking at a chipped mug of black coffee, when Caleb walked in. He ditched the suit jacket, sleeves rolled up to his elbows, looking less like a CEO and more like the guy she'd fallen for. He slid in across from her, his knee brushing hers under the table, sending a jolt through her she tried to ignore. "Thanks for coming," he said, his voice soft but steady. "I didn't think you would." "Almost didn't," she shot back, sipping her coffee to hide the shake in her hands. "So what's this about, Caleb? You want to play catch-up like we're old pals?" He leaned forward, elbows on the table, his gaze intense. "I want to know what happened. After I left. I wrote you, Layla. Every week for months. You never wrote back." She laughed, bitter and sharp. "That's your story? I never got a damn letter, Caleb. Mom said you forgot me the second you hit Atlanta. Guess she was right." His brows furrowed, confusion etching his face. "No, I sent him to your house. Your mom, she never—" Layla's stomach dropped. She set the mug down hard, coffee sloshing over the rim. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying maybe she didn't want you getting him." He ran a hand through his hair, exhaling hard. "She never liked me, thought I wasn't good enough for her baby girl." The words hit like a punch. Layla stared at him, pieces clicking into place. Her mom's tight-lipped silence whenever Caleb's name came up, the way she'd pushed Layla to move on. "She died 6 months after you left," she said finally, her voice flat. "Cancer ate her up. I sold the house to pay the bills. No college, no nothing. That's what happened." Caleb's face crumpled, guilt washing over him. "Layla, I didn't know. If I'd—" "Don't!" she snapped, cutting him off. "Don't you dare say you'd have come back. You had your shot and you took it. I don't need your if-onlys now." He reached for her hand, but she pulled back, her skin buzzing where his fingers grazed her. "I'm not here to fix the past," he said, voice low. Seeing you today, it's like I got a second chance. I don't want to blow it." She glared at him, her chest tight with anger, hurt, and something else she didn't want to name. "A second chance? You think you can waltz back in here all rich and pretty, and I'll just fall into your arms? I ain't that girl anymore, Caleb." "I know," he said, eyes locked on hers. "But I can see you're still Layla. Tough as nails, beautiful as hell. And I'm still me, the guy who couldn't keep his hands off you." Her breath caught, heat flushing her face. She remembered those hands, rough and eager, mapping every inch of her under that oak tree. She hated how much she wanted them on her again, how her body betrayed her with every second he sat there, close enough to touch. "I gotta go," she said abruptly, standing up, her chair scraping the floor. "This was a mistake." "Layla, wait." He grabbed her wrist, not hard, just enough to stop her. His touch burned, electric, and she yanked away, glaring. "6:30's up, Hart. Good night." She stormed out, the bell above the door jangling as she hit the street, the cool night air doing nothing to calm the fire in her veins. Caleb didn't follow, but she felt his eyes on her through the window, heavy and unyielding. Back in her apartment, she kicked off her shoes and sank onto the couch, staring at the ceiling. Her life was a grind, cleaning floors, dodging bills, chasing a degree she might never finish. And now Caleb Hart was back, dredging up shit she'd buried deep. Her phone buzzed, an unknown number. She opened the text. "It's Caleb. Got your number from HR. Meet me tomorrow night. My place. Please." She tossed the phone aside, heart racing, knowing she should say no. But the memory of that truck, of his body pressed to hers, kept her awake half the night, wondering if some fires never really went out. Hey, if y'all are wondering whether Layla's going to give Caleb another shot, or maybe slap him silly, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment. Where you watching from? Atlanta, Georgia, or somewhere else in the world, let me know. Layla stared at the cracked ceiling of her East Atlanta Village apartment, the faint hum of traffic seeping through the thin walls. Caleb's text glowed on her phone screen, mocking her from the coffee table where she'd tossed it. "My place, please." The nerve of him, thinking he could just summon her like some damn king on a throne. She rolled onto her side, the lumpy couch creaking under her weight, and tried to shove him out of her head, but her mind wouldn't let go. Those blue eyes piercing through 20 years of dust, that voice, low and rough, stirring up memories she'd locked away. She could still feel the ghost of his hands on her thighs, the way he'd groaned her name in that Chevy like it was the only word he knew. Sleep didn't come easy. By morning, her resolve was a frayed thread. She dragged herself through her shift at Hart Industries, scrubbing toilets and mopping floors with a vengeance, Mary J. Blige blasting in her earbuds. Every time she caught a glimpse of the executive floor through the glass walls, her stomach twisted. Caleb was up there somewhere, probably sipping espresso in a corner office while she hauled trash bags. The gap between them wasn't just time. It was a whole damn universe. She wasn't some naive girl anymore, dreaming of a white night to sweep her off her feet. Life had taught her better. But when 6:30 rolled around, she found herself clocking out, swapping the uniform for a faded red sundress that hugged her curves just right. She told herself it wasn't for him. It was the only clean thing she had left after a week of double shifts. Her hair spilled loose, wild curls framing her face as she caught the MARTA bus to Buckhead. Caleb's address, texted an hour later with a simple 7 p.m., 1450 Peachtree, was a sleek high-rise that screamed money. Glass and steel towering over the city, the kind of place she'd never step foot in unless she was cleaning it. The doorman, a wiry guy with a gray mustache, gave her a once-over, but waved her through after a quick call upstairs. The elevator ride felt like a slow climb to judgment, her reflection in the mirrored walls showing a woman caught between pride and something softer she didn't want to name. When the doors slid open, Caleb was there, leaning against the frame of his penthouse doorway, sleeves rolled up, a glass of bourbon in his hand. He looked too damn good. Broad shoulders filling out a black button-down, jeans that fit just right, that same cocky grin she'd fallen for at 18. "Glad you came," he said, stepping aside to let her in. His voice was warm, but there was a hunger in it that made her skin prickle. "Don't get used to it," she shot back, brushing past him. The penthouse hit her like a slap, open and sprawling, all hardwood floors and floor-to-ceiling windows with Atlanta's skyline glittering beyond. A leather sectional dominated the living room. A massive TV hung on one wall, and a painting of a Georgia sunset. Too familiar, too Macon, caught her eye. She stopped, staring at it. "Picked that up years ago," Caleb said, following her gaze. "Reminded me of home." "Home," she snorted, turning to face him. "You mean the place you ditched?" He winced, setting the bourbon down on a sleek glass table. "Layla, I didn't ditch you. I thought you ditched me." She crossed her arms, the sundress shifting against her skin. "Yeah, you said that last night. Letters I never got. Mom playing gatekeeper. What's that supposed to change now?" He stepped closer, close enough that she caught the faint scent of his cologne. Cedar and smoke, tugging at her senses. "It changes everything. I spent years thinking you moved on, that I wasn't worth your time. When I saw you yesterday, it was like I'd been holding my breath for 20 years and finally let it out." Her throat tightened, but she kept her face hard. "Pretty words, Caleb. You always were good at that. They're not just words." He reached out, hesitated, then let his hand drop. "I fucked up leaving without a fight. I should have come back, tracked you down. But I didn't know about your mom, about everything." Layla's chest ached. the weight of that everything pressing down. She hadn't planned to tell him, hadn't wanted his pity or his guilt, but it slipped out anyway, raw and jagged. You want to know everything? 6 months after you left, Mom got sick. Cancer. I was working double shifts at the diner to pay for her meds, sleeping on the floor when we lost the house. And then, she stopped, her voice cracking, but the dam was broken. I was pregnant, Caleb. Your kid. Lost it at 3 months. Couldn't afford a doctor. Couldn't afford shit. His face went white, like she'd punched him in the gut. He staggered back, sinking onto the couch, hands gripping his knees. Jesus, Layla, I didn't know, she finished, her tone bitter. Yeah, you said that. Doesn't change it. I was alone, burying my mom, burying our baby, while you were off building this. She waved a hand at the penthouse, the city beyond the glass. So don't stand there acting like you get it. He looked up at her, eyes glistening, and for a second she saw the boy from Macon, the one who'd held her under that oak tree, who'd promised her the world. I don't get it, he said quietly. I can't. But I'm here now, and I'm not letting you walk away without a fight this time. She laughed, a harsh, shaky sound. A fight? What's there to fight for? You're a billionaire, Caleb. I'm a cleaning lady with a GED and a bus pass. We ain't the same story anymore. He stood, closing the distance between them, his hands hovering near her shoulders. You think I give a damn about that? You're Layla Jackson, the only person who ever saw me, really saw me, before all this bullshit. His voice dropped, rough and urgent. And I still see you. Her breath hitched, his words slicing through her defenses. She wanted to push him away, to run back to her safe, small life. But her body had other ideas. He was too close, too real, and when his fingers brushed her arm, a spark shot through her, hot and electric. She glared at him, trying to hold on to her anger, but it was slipping, melting under the heat in his eyes. Caleb, don't, she started, but he cut her off, stepping even closer, his chest brushing hers. Tell me, you don't feel it, he murmured, his breath warm against her cheek. Tell me you don't remember. She remembered. God help her, she did. The truck, the heat, the way he'd moved inside her like they were the only two people on earth. Her resolve cracked, and before she could stop herself, she grabbed his shirt, pulling him into a kiss that was all fire and fury. He groaned into her mouth, hands sliding down her back, gripping her hips like he'd never let go. The sundress bunched under his fingers as he pressed her against the window, the cool glass a shock against her skin. She arched into him, her nails digging into his neck, tasting bourbon and desperation on his tongue. They stumbled to the couch, a tangle of limbs and need, her dress riding up as he yanked it over her head. She straddled him, her bare skin against his shirt, the friction driving her wild. His hands roamed her curves, her breasts, her waist, her ass, greedy and reverent, like he was mapping her all over again. Fuck, Layla, he rasped, his voice wrecked as she rocked against him, feeling him hard beneath her. She tore at his buttons, exposing his chest, and bit down on his shoulder, drawing a hiss from him that sent a thrill through her. It was fast, messy, 20 years of pent-up want spilling out. He flipped her onto her back, jeans shoved down just enough, and thrust into her with a force that made her cry out. The couch creaked under them, her legs wrapping around his waist, urging him deeper. Sweat slicked their skin, her curls sticking to her face as she clung to him, every thrust a reclaiming, every moan a confession. When they came, it was together. Her gasping his name, him burying his face in her neck, shuddering against her like a man undone. Afterward, they lay there, breathless, tangled in each other, the city lights painting their skin in gold and shadow. Layla's heart pounded, her mind spinning. This wasn't just sex. It was a door she'd cracked open, one she wasn't sure she could close again. Caleb traced lazy circles on her stomach, his voice soft. "Stay tonight. Please." She turned her head, meeting his eyes, and saw something raw there. Hope, fear, love. She wanted to say yes, to fall into him like she had at 18. But the weight of reality pressed down. "I can't," she whispered, sitting up, pulling her dress back on with shaky hands. "Not yet." "Layla," he started, reaching for her. But she stood, smoothing her hair, her voice firm. "I need to think, Caleb. It's too much." He nodded, slow and reluctant, watching as she grabbed her bag. "I'll wait," he said, his tone steady despite the crack in it. "However long it takes." She didn't answer, slipping out the door, the elevator ride down a blur of heat and regret. Back in her apartment, she sank onto the couch, still feeling him on her skin, in her bones. The phone buzzed again. Another text from him. "I meant it. I'm not going anywhere." She stared at it, torn between the fire he'd reignited and the life she'd built without him. Sleep came fitful, haunted by the taste of him, the ache of what might have been, and what still could be. The next morning, she woke to a knock at her door. It was Tanya, her best friend, a wiry black woman with a sharp tongue and a sewing machine that paid her bills. Tanya barged in, coffee in hand, eyeing Layla like she could smell the chaos on her. "Girl, you look like you got hit by a truck. What's up?" Layla sighed, rubbing her eyes. "Caleb Hart's up. Showed up at work, dragged me into his damn penthouse, and now I don't know what the hell I'm doing." Tanya's brows shot up, a grin spreading. "The white boy from Macon? Mr. Billionaire? Shit, Layla, you fucked him, didn't you?" Layla groaned, burying her face in her hands. "Yeah, and now he wants me back. Like, back. Tanya laughed, loud and unapologetic. "Well, damn. You gonna let him in, or you gonna run? 'Cause from where I'm sitting, you're glowing like a woman who got some good dick last night." "Shut up," Layla muttered, but a smile tugged at her lips despite herself. She didn't know what she'd do, run, fight, or fall. But Caleb Hart wasn't making it easy to walk away. And deep down, some part of her didn't want to. Layla slumped against the counter in her cramped kitchen, the chipped mug of coffee Tanya had shoved into her hands, doing little to clear the fog in her head. The smell of Caleb still clung to her, bourbon and sweat, a ghost of last night's madness. Tanya perched on the edge of the couch, her sharp eyes dissecting Layla like she was a project on her sewing table. The morning sun sliced through the blinds, catching the dust motes in the air, and Layla felt every second of her 38 years weighing her down. "So, let me get this straight," Tanya said, crossing her arms, her voice dripping with that mix of sass and concern only she could pull off. "You banged the billionaire in his fancy-ass penthouse, and now he's begging you to stay? Girl, you living a damn Lifetime movie." Layla snorted, sipping the coffee, black and bitter, just how she liked it. "Ain't no movie. It's a mess. He's up there in his glass tower, and I'm down here scraping by. What the hell am I supposed to do with that?" Tanya leaned forward, her braids swinging. "What you want to do? 'Cause I saw that look in your eye when you said his name. You ain't over that boy, never were." Layla's jaw tightened. She wanted to argue, to say she'd buried Caleb Hart under 20 years of hard knocks and late-night shifts. But Tanya was right. Last night had ripped that lie wide open. The way he'd touched her, fucked her, looked at her. It wasn't just nostalgia. It was alive, raw, and messy as hell. She set the mug down, running a hand through her curls. Maybe I ain't. But that don't mean I can just jump back in. He's got a whole world I don't fit into. Fit into? Tanya laughed, sharp and loud. Honey, you don't fit nowhere. You make your own damn space. Always have. Remember when we worked that shitty bar on Auburn Avenue? White folks staring like we was aliens. And you still had 'em tipping double by the end of the night. You can handle Caleb Hart and his bougie bullshit. Layla smirked despite herself, the memory of slinging drinks and dodging grabby hands flashing back. That was different. He's got a brother who runs shit at that company, Tanya. Ethan Hart. Saw me yesterday, gave me this look like I was trash under his shoe. I ain't dealing with that. Tanya's grin faded, her eyes narrowing. Ethan Hart? That slick motherfucker with the Rolex and the fake smile? Yeah, I've seen him on the news. He's trouble, Layla. You watch your back with him. Too late, Layla muttered, her stomach twisting. She hadn't told Tanya about Ethan cornering her in the lobby yet, but the memory was fresh, his shadow looming as she'd pushed her cart past, his voice low and oily. You're a long way from Macon, sweetheart. Don't get too comfortable. She'd brushed it off then, too rattled by Caleb to process it, but now it gnawed at her. Before Tanya could press for more, Layla's phone buzzed on the counter. She grabbed it, heart lurching when she saw Caleb's name. Lunch today? I'll come to you. Please. She stared at the screen, thumb hovering over the reply button. Don't you dare ghost him, Tanya said, reading her like an open book. You already fucked him. Might as well hear him out. Layla rolled her eyes but typed back. Noon, Brew Haven. Don't be late. She tossed the phone down, glaring at Tanya. Happy now? Ecstatic, Tanya shot back, grinning. Now go shower. You smell like sex and regret. Layla flipped her off but dragged herself to the bathroom, the hot water doing little to wash away the tangle in her chest. By noon, she was back at Brew Haven, jeans and a tank top this time, her hair pulled into a messy bun. Caleb walked in right on time, casual in a gray Henley and jeans, looking less like a CEO and more like the guy who'd hauled hay bales back in Macon. He slid into the booth across from her, his knee brushing hers again, and she cursed the way her body reacted, heat pooling low, traitorously quick. Thanks for meeting me, he said, his voice soft but steady. I couldn't stop thinking about last night. Yeah, well, I couldn't either, she admitted, keeping her tone sharp. But that don't mean I'm ready to play house with you, Caleb. He nodded, hands clasped on the table, his knuckles white. I get it. I'm not asking you to. I need you to know I'm serious. About you. About us. Us? She leaned back, crossing her arms. There ain't no us yet. You got a life I can't even wrap my head around. Fancy suits, board meetings, people kissing your ass. I got bills and a bus pass. Where's the us in that? He leaned forward, eyes locked on hers, intense enough to make her squirm. The us is right here, Layla. Same as it was in that truck. I don't care about the rest. None of it matters without you. She wanted to laugh, to call him out on the bullshit, but his voice cracked on that last part, and it hit her hard. Before she could snap back, the bell above the door jingled, and a shadow fell over their table. Layla looked up, and her stomach dropped. Ethan Hart stood there, all 6'2" of him, in a tailored suit that screamed power, his dark blonde hair slicked back, a smirk playing on his lips. Well, ain't this cozy, Ethan drawled, his voice smooth as silk but sharp underneath. My little brother slumming it with the help. Caleb shot to his feet, fists clenched. Back off, Ethan. Ethan raised his hands, mock innocence in his eyes, but they flicked to Layla, raking over her like she was meat on a hook. Relax, Caleb. Just saying hi. Didn't know you were into... Charity cases. Layla stood slow, her blood boiling, and stepped right into Ethan's space, close enough to smell his overpriced cologne. Call me that again, motherfucker, and I'll shove that Rolex so far up your ass you'll be ticking for a week. Ethan's smirk faltered, a flash of something, anger, maybe lust, crossing his face before he recovered. Feisty. I see why he likes you. Enough, Caleb growled, stepping between them, his hand brushing Layla's arm. What the hell you want, Ethan? Ethan adjusted his cufflinks, casual as hell. Just checking in. Board's antsy about the gala tomorrow night. Big clients, big money. Don't fuck it up with distractions. His eyes slid back to Layla, lingering too long. Get out, Caleb said, voice low and dangerous. Ethan chuckled, gave Layla one last look, then sauntered out, leaving the air thick with tension. Layla sank back into the booth, her hands shaking with rage. Caleb sat too, running a hand through his hair. I'm sorry. He's an asshole. He's more than that, she said, her voice tight. He's trouble, Caleb, and he don't like me sniffing around your world. He doesn't get a say. Caleb shot back, reaching for her hand. She let him take it this time, his thumb brushing her knuckles, steadying her. Come to the gala with me, tomorrow night. Let me show you I'm not ashamed of this. Of us. She pulled her hand back, glaring. A gala? With your rich-ass friends? You trying to parade me around like some trophy? No, he said quick, leaning in. I'm trying to prove I mean it. You're not a trophy, Layla. You're the realest damn thing in my life. Always have been. Her chest tightened, his words sinking in deeper than she wanted. She thought of Ethan's smirk, the photos Chloe might shove in her face someday, the whispers she'd hear at that gala. But then she thought of Caleb's hands on her last night, the way he'd looked at her like she was still his whole world. Fine, she muttered. But I ain't wearing no damn ball gown. He grinned, relief flooding his face. Deal. Tanya can hook you up. She's got skills, right? Yeah, she does, Layla said, a small smile tugging at her lips despite herself. But you owe me, Hart. Anything, he said. And the way he said it, soft, serious, made her believe him, just for a second. The next day flew by in a blur. Tanya showed up at Layla's place with a bolt of emerald green fabric and a grin that wouldn't quit. You're gonna slay him, girl, she said, pinning the dress tight around Layla's curves, the deep V-neck showing off just enough to turn heads. By evening, Layla stood in front of her cracked mirror, the dress hugging her like a second skin, her hair loose and wild, a pair of cheap gold hoops dangling from her ears. She looked good, damn good, and for once, she felt it. Caleb picked her up in a black SUV, his driver keeping his eyes front as they rolled toward the Four Seasons downtown. He was in a tux, sharp and sexy, and when he saw her, his jaw dropped. Holy shit, Layla, he breathed, pulling her close as they stepped out onto the red carpet. You're killing me. Good, she shot back, smirking, but her nerves jangled as cameras flashed, voices shouting his name. Mr. Hart, who's your date? One called, and Caleb didn't flinch. Layla Jackson, he said loud and clear. Old friend, badass woman, works at Hart Industries. The honesty threw them off, and the questions fizzled out. Inside, the ballroom was a sea of suits and sequins, champagne flutes clinking, a string quartet humming in the corner. Layla felt every eye on her, but Caleb's hand on her lower back kept her steady. They mingled, clients, execs, all smiles and small talk, until Ethan appeared, a blonde bombshell on his arm, his smirk back in full force. Brother, Ethan said, nodding at Caleb, then turning to Layla. And the cleaning lady. How quaint. Caleb tensed, but Layla stepped forward, her voice ice cold. "Keep talking, Ethan. I'd hate to ruin your night with a scene." Ethan's date, Chloe, Layla realized, recognizing her from tabloid covers, giggled, sipping her drink. "Oh, she's fun," Chloe said, her eyes raking over Layla. "James told me about you, the little project." Layla's fists clenched, but before she could swing, a drunk guy stumbled into the room, shouting, "Where's Caleb Hart? Where's the bastard who stole my life?" The crowd froze, heads turning, and Caleb's face went pale. "Travis," he muttered, stepping forward, but Ethan grabbed his arm. "Security!" Ethan barked, signaling the guards. The guy, Travis, kept yelling, slurring about a company Caleb had bought out. Jobs lost, a wife gone. Layla watched, heart sinking, as security dragged him out. Ethan spinning it for the crowd with a slick, "Just a misunderstanding, folks. Drinks are on us." Caleb turned to her, his eyes pleading. "Layla, Is it true?" She cut in, voice low. "Did you screw him over?" "No," he said, firm but shaken. "His company was tanking. I saved what I could. He wouldn't take my help." She nodded, slow, wanting to believe him, but Ethan's voice cut through, low and close. "Careful, Caleb. She's gonna drag you down with her." Layla spun, ready to snap, but Caleb pulled her toward the terrace. "Let's get air," he said, his grip tight. Outside, the rain started, a light drizzle cooling her skin. He pulled her close, kissing her hard, wet fabric clinging to them both. She melted into it, anger and want warring inside her, until she pulled back, breathless. "I don't know if I belong here," she whispered, rain streaking her face. "You do," he said, fierce. "With me." She didn't answer, just let him hold her, the storm drowning out the world. But inside, Ethan watched from the shadows, his phone already in hand, plotting his next move. The rain plastered Layla's dress to her skin as she stood on the Four Seasons terrace, Caleb's arms still tight around her. His breath was hot against her neck, his lips brushing her ear. And for a moment, she let herself sink into him. The heat of his body, the steady thump of his heart against her chest. The storm drowned out the gala's chatter, leaving just them, soaked and raw. The city lights blurring through the downpour, but Ethan's words clawed at her, sharp and venomous. "She's gonna drag you down." She pulled back, her hands on Caleb's chest, rain streaking her face. "I need to know the truth," she said, her voice cutting through the patter of drops. "That guy, Travis, what really happened?" Caleb wiped water from his eyes, his tucks clinging to his shoulders, making him look less like a billionaire and more like a man caught in a mess. "Travis Reed owned a tech startup we acquired last year. It was bleeding cash, bad management, worse decisions. I bought it out, kept half the staff on, offered him a consultant gig. He said no, drank himself stupid instead, blames me for his life falling apart." Layla studied him, searching for the lie, but his eyes held steady, shadowed with guilt, but not deceit. "So you didn't ruin him?" "No," he said, voice rough. "I tried to save what I could. But business ain't clean, Layla. People get hurt. I just didn't think it'd follow me here." She nodded, slow, the rain cooling the fire in her chest. "Okay, I believe you. But Ethan, he's got it out for me. For us." Caleb's jaw tightened, water dripping from his hair. "He's always been a control freak. Thinks he's protecting the company, the family name. I'll handle him." Layla laughed, bitter and short. "Handle him? He looked at me like I'm some roach he wants to squash. You think he's just gonna back off 'cause you ask nice?" Caleb grabbed her hand, his grip firm, reins sliding between their fingers. "He doesn't get to decide who I want in my life. I'm not losing you again, Layla. Not to him, not to anyone. She wanted to argue, to tell him it wasn't that simple, but his touch, wet, warm, desperate, pulled her under. He kissed her again, softer this time, rain mixing with the taste of him, and she let it happen, her hands fisting his shirt. When they broke apart, she stepped back, brushing wet curls from her face. I gotta go home, Caleb. Think this through. Let me drive you, he said, voice low, pleading. She shook her head, needing space, needing air that wasn't thick with him. I'll take the bus. See you at work. He didn't push, just watched her go, rain streaking his face like tears. The bus ride back to East Atlanta Village was a cold, soggy blur, her mind spinning with Caleb's promises and Ethan's threats. By the time she stumbled into her apartment, peeling off the ruined dress, her phone buzzed. Caleb again. You're everything to me. Night. She stared at it, heart thudding, then tossed it aside, collapsing onto her bed. Sleep came heavy, dreams tangled with oak trees and penthouse couches. Monday hit like a freight train. Layla clocked in at Hart Industries, the lobby buzzing with whispers. Gala gossip had spread fast. She kept her head down, earbuds in, scrubbing floors with a rhythm that drowned out the stairs. But around noon, her supervisor, a wiry guy named Mike, tapped her shoulder. Boss wants you upstairs. Ethan Hart's office. Now. Her stomach dropped, but she nodded, wiping her hands on her uniform. The elevator ride to the executive floor felt like a march to the gallows, her reflection in the glass showing a woman braced for war. Ethan's office was all sleek lines and power. Mahogany desk, skyline view, a wall of awards screaming success. He stood by the window, hands in his pockets, his suit crisp despite the chaos he'd stirred. Ms. Jackson, he said, turning with that slick smile, his voice smooth as oil. Have a seat. I'll stand, she shot back, arms crossed, her ponytail swinging as she squared her shoulders. He chuckled, low and dark, stepping closer. Suit yourself. I assume you enjoyed the gala. Quite the show you and my brother put on. What do you want, Ethan? She cut in, her tone sharp. I got floors to clean. He leaned against his desk, casual but coiled, like a snake ready to strike. I want you gone, Layla. You're a distraction, a liability. Caleb's got a company to run, and he can't do it with you hanging off his arm. She laughed, cold and loud. You think I'm some gold digger? I don't need your brother's money, asshole. I've been taking care of myself since I was 18. Oh, I don't doubt that, he said, his eyes raking over her, lingering on her chest, her hips. You've got grit. I can see why he's obsessed. But this, he waved a hand at her uniform, doesn't belong in our world. You're a fling, a nostalgia trip. He'll get bored, and you'll be back on your knees scrubbing toilets. Her fists clenched, nails biting into her palms. You don't know shit about me or him, don't I? He pulled a folder from his desk, flipping it open. Financial charts, red lines plunging down. These are projections if Caleb keeps chasing skirts instead of running Hart Industries. Thousands of jobs, millions of dollars. You willing to tank that for a fuck? Layla's blood boiled, but his words hit a nerve, echoing her own fears. She stepped closer, voice low and lethal. You're scared, Ethan. Scared I'll make him see you for the snake you are. Keep pushing me and I'll bite back. His smirk faltered, a flicker of something. Respect, maybe, crossing his face before he masked it. I've got an offer, he said, sliding a check across the desk. 6 figures, her name in bold. Take it. Quit today. Start over somewhere else. Clean break. She stared at the check, her pulse racing. It was more money than she'd see in years. Enough for school, a new place, a fresh start. But it was blood money, a bribe to erase her from Caleb's life. She pushed it back, her voice steady. "Shove it up your ass, Ethan. I ain't for sale." He straightened, eyes narrowing. "Everyone's got a price, Layla. I'll find yours." She turned on her heel, storming out, the door slamming behind her. Back on the cleaning floor, she attacked the tiles with a fury, Ethan's voice looping in her head. She didn't tell Caleb, didn't want him fighting her battles, but by afternoon, the whispers turned to shouts. A news alert pinged her phone. Hart Industries scandal. COO Ethan Hart accused of fraud. Her heart stopped. The article spilled it all. Cooked books, hidden losses, Ethan fleeing to Mexico. The company was teetering, stocks crashing, and Caleb was in the crosshairs. She dropped her mop, hands shaking, and bolted for the elevator. The executive floor was chaos, suits running, phones ringing, Diane barking orders. Layla pushed through, finding Caleb in his office, staring out the window, a glass of bourbon in his hand. He looked wrecked. Hair mussed, tie loose, eyes hollow. "Caleb," she said, shutting the door behind her. He turned, surprise flashing across his face, then relief. "You're here," he muttered, voice rough, setting the glass down. "Saw the news?" "Yeah," she said, stepping closer, the air thick with his despair. "Ethan?" He nodded, running a hand over his face. "Been skimming for years. Fucked us over, then ran. Left me to clean it up or watch it burn." She reached him, her hand on his arm, firm and warm. "You didn't know?" "No," he said, meeting her eyes, raw and honest. "I trusted him, my own damn brother, and now everything's gone." "Not everything," she said, her voice steady, despite the storm in her chest. "You got me." He stared at her, something breaking in his expression, and then he pulled her into him, crushing her against his chest. She felt the tremble in him, the weight of it all, and held him back, her fingers digging into his shirt. "I thought I lost you," he whispered, his breath hot against her hair. "After the gala, I thought—" "Shut up," she cut him off, pulling back to look at him. "I'm here, ain't I?" He kissed her then, hard and desperate, his hands sliding down her back, gripping her ass through the uniform. She kissed him back, matching his fire, the office fading away as they stumbled against his desk, papers scattered, her leg hitched around his waist, his mouth on her neck, hungry and wild. It wasn't soft, wasn't sweet. It was need, pure and unfiltered, a lifeline in the wreckage. She yanked his shirt open, buttons popping, her nails raking his chest as he groaned into her skin. They didn't fuck. Not there, not then. But the edge was close, the heat of it searing through them. When they finally broke apart, breathless, foreheads pressed together, he rasped, "Stay with me, Layla. Through this." She nodded, her voice a whisper. "I ain't going nowhere." But as they stood there, the phone on his desk lit up. Diane, frantic. "Mr. Hart, the board's calling an emergency meeting. Now." Caleb cursed, pulling away, but he squeezed her hand first, a promise in his grip. "Go," she said, stepping back, smoothing her uniform. "I'll be here." He nodded, grabbing his jacket, and left her in the office, the city skyline dark beyond the glass. She sank into his chair, heart pounding, Ethan's check flashing in her mind. The scandal wasn't just Caleb's. It was hers now, too. And she knew Ethan wasn't done, not by a long shot. Layla sat in Caleb's office chair, the leather cool against her thighs, the chaos beyond the door a muffled roar. The skyline stretched out dark and jagged, Atlanta's lights flickering like they were mocking the mess unfolding inside Hart Industries. Her uniform was wrinkled, her skin still tingling where Caleb's hands had been. his taste lingering on her lips. She could hear Diane's voice barking orders through the walls. The board meeting pulling Caleb away just when she'd decided to plant her feet beside him. The phone buzzed again, another news alert. Hart Industries COO Ethan Hart flees country amid fraud allegations. Her stomach twisted. This wasn't just a scandal. It was a goddamn earthquake, and she was caught in the rubble. She stood pacing the office, her sneakers squeaking on the hardwood. Ethan's face flashed in her mind. His smirk, his threats, that damn check still burning a hole in her memory. She'd told him to shove it, but now she wondered if he'd planned this all along, setting Caleb up to take the fall while he bolted. Her fingers brushed the desk where they'd almost lost control minutes ago, papers still scattered from their stumble. She smirked despite herself. Caleb Hart, all polished and powerful, undone by her in his own damn kingdom. But the smirk faded fast. This wasn't a game anymore. The door swung open, and Tanya burst in, her braids swinging, eyes wide. Girl, what the hell? I've been texting you for an hour. The news is everywhere. Ethan's gone, stocks are tanking, and you're up here playing house? Layla spun, hands on her hips. I ain't playing shit, Tanya. Caleb's in a board meeting trying to save what's left. I'm just here. Tanya arched a brow, crossing her arms. Here, huh? Looking like you just got fucked 6 ways to Sunday. Don't tell me you're riding this sinking ship with him. Layla glared, but her cheeks heated. It ain't like that. He needs me, okay? And I need to know I ain't running from something real just 'cause it's hard. Tanya softened, stepping closer. Hard? Baby, this ain't hard. This is a damn disaster. You sure you want to tie yourself to a man who might lose everything? He already lost everything once. Layla snapped, her voice sharp. Me? And I lost him. I ain't doing that again. Tanya sighed, pulling her into a quick, fierce hug. All right, stubborn ass. But you call me if this goes south. I ain't letting you drown with him. Deal, Layla muttered, hugging back. Tanya left, and Layla sank back into the chair, waiting. Hours crawled by, the office growing darker, the city lights sharper against the night. When Caleb finally returned, he looked like hell, tie gone, shirt untucked, eyes bloodshot. He shut the door, leaning against it, staring at her like she was the only thing keeping him upright. They're suspending me, he said, voice flat. Pending investigation. FBI's involved now. If they can't prove I was clean, I'm done. Layla stood, crossing to him, her hand on his chest. You didn't know, Caleb. They'll see that. He laughed, bitter and hollow, his hand covering hers. Will they? Ethan's got years of paper trails. Some of it's got my name on it. He was smart, Layla. Covered his ass, left mine hanging. She squeezed his hand, fierce. Then we fight it. You got lawyers, right? Money? Money's tied up, he said, shaking his head. Company's frozen assets till this shakes out. Lawyers are on it, but shit, I don't know. She pulled him to the couch, sitting him down, her thigh pressed to his. Listen to me, Hart. You built this from nothing once. You can do it again. And I ain't letting you fall apart now. He looked at her, eyes searching, then pulled her into his lap, his hands sliding up her back. You're crazy, you know that? Sticking with me when it's all crashing down. Crazy's my middle name, she shot back, smirking. But it faded as he kissed her. Slow, deep, a lifeline in the storm. She straddled him, fingers in his hair, the kiss turning hungry, her body pressed tight against his. He groaned, hands gripping her ass, and she felt him harden beneath her, the heat between them flaring fast. She broke away, breathless, her forehead against his. We can't, she whispered, though her body screamed otherwise. Not here. Not now. I know, he rasped, but he didn't let go, his grip possessive. Just stay with me tonight. My place. I need you, Layla. She nodded, sliding off him, her legs shaky. Okay, but we're keeping our damn clothes on this time. He chuckled, the sound rough but real, and grabbed his keys. The drive to Buckhead was silent, the rain picking up again, drumming on the SUV's roof. His penthouse felt different now, less like a castle, more like a bunker, the weight of the scandal pressing in. They crashed on the couch, fully dressed, her head on his chest, his arm around her. Sleep came fast, exhaustion winning out over desire. Morning broke gray and heavy. Layla woke to Caleb pacing the terrace, phone to his ear, his voice tight. She slipped outside, the air damp, her sundress from yesterday wrinkled but still on. He hung up, turning to her, his face grim. Board's leaking shit to the press, he said, tossing the phone onto a chair. Saying I knew about Ethan's moves. And there's more. Some assholes claiming Ethan paid off escorts with company cash. Chloe's name's in it. Layla's gut clenched. Chloe? That blonde bitch from the gala? Yeah, he said, rubbing his neck. She's been in Ethan's pocket for years. Probably mine, too, back when I didn't ask questions. She stepped closer, arms crossed. You sleep with her? He met her eyes, unflinching. Once, years ago. Meant nothing. Layla nodded, swallowing the jealousy clawing at her. Okay, so what now? Now? He laughed, sharp and bitter. Now I'm fucked unless I can prove I'm clean. And you... He stopped, his voice softening. You don't have to stay, Layla. This is my mess. Shut up, she said, grabbing his shirt, pulling him close. I told you, I'm in. But we need a plan. Ethan's running, but he left shit behind. I found stuff, Caleb. Papers, when I was cleaning. Numbers that didn't add up. His eyes widened, hope flickering. Where? Trash bins, executive floor. I kept copies. Thought they might matter someday. You're a damn genius, he said, grinning for the first time in hours. Get 'em. We'll take 'em to the lawyers. She nodded, adrenaline pumping. Back at her place, she dug through a shoebox under her bed. Crumpled pages, scribbled notes, dates and figures she'd snagged months ago, instinct telling her to hold on. They met his lawyer, a grizzled guy named Paul, at a diner off I-85, handing over the stash. Paul scanned it, whistling low. This ties Ethan to offshore accounts. Might clear you, Caleb, but it's a long shot. FBI's digging deep. Long shot's better than no shot, Caleb said, squeezing Layla's hand under the table. Days blurred into a haze. Meetings, interrogations, headlines screaming, Hart brothers fall. Layla stuck by him, dodging reporters camped outside her building, her name splashed across tabloids as Caleb Hart's mystery woman. Then, a week later, Paul called. FBI's got Ethan, nabbed him in Cancun. Your docs helped. They're leaning toward clearing you, but the company's toast. Bankruptcy's looming. Caleb hung up, sinking onto the penthouse couch, Layla beside him. It's over, he muttered. Everything I built. Not over, she said, firm, turning his face to hers. You're still here. I'm still here. We start again. He stared at her, then pulled her into a kiss, fierce, desperate, his hands sliding under her shirt, rough against her skin. She climbed onto him, straddling his hips, tearing at his clothes as he yanked hers off. They fucked right there, hard and fast, her nails digging into his back, his groans filling the room as she rode him, their bodies slick with sweat. It was release, defiance, a middle finger to the world crashing down. When they finished, panting, tangled together, he held her tight, voice raw. "I love you, Layla. Always have." She froze, heart slamming, then kissed him soft, her voice a whisper. "Love you too, dumbass." They lay there, the penthouse quiet, the city humming below, but the peace didn't last. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "You think you won? Check the news." She opened it, and her blood ran cold. A video, grainy but clear, Ethan in cuffs, smirking at a camera. "Caleb knew everything," he said, voice steady. "He's no saint. Ask his little girlfriend about the kid they lost. She'll tell you who he really is." Layla's hand shook, the phone slipping to the floor. Caleb grabbed it, watching, his face draining of color. "What the fuck?" he breathed, turning to her. "How does he know?" She stood, pacing, fury and fear clawing at her. "I don't know. I never told him. Only you, Tanya." "Tanya wouldn't," he said, but doubt crept into his voice. "Layla, this could sink us. If they think I hid that, they won't," she snapped, grabbing his shoulders. "It's bullshit. He's grasping. But we need to hit back. Hard." He nodded, pulling her close, his breath ragged. "How?" She smirked, fierce and wild. "I'll tell the world myself. My story, my way. Ethan wants to play dirty? I'll bury him." The next morning, she called Tanya and Sandra, her old supervisor, setting up a press conference at a dive bar in Decatur. Dressed in jeans and a leather jacket, hair loose, she stepped to a makeshift mic, cameras rolling. "I'm Layla Jackson," she said, voice steady, eyes blazing. "I ain't no mystery woman. I'm a black girl from Macon who fought for everything I got. Ethan Hart's a liar and a thief. I found proof. Papers he tried to hide. Caleb didn't know shit. And yeah, I lost a baby 20 years ago. Our baby. But that's my pain, not his crime. So fuck Ethan. And fuck anyone who thinks I'm here to bring Caleb down. I'm here to lift him up." The crowd erupted. Cheers, gasps, flashes popping. Caleb watched from the sidelines, awe in his eyes, and when she stepped off, he pulled her into a kiss that drowned out the noise. "You're incredible," he whispered, holding her tight. The tide turned. Public opinion swung hard, Ethan's lies unraveling as the FBI dug deeper. But Hart Industries was done, assets sold off to pay debts. Caleb let it go, and Layla stood by him, their hands locked as the world shifted beneath them. The dive bar in Decatur buzzed with the aftermath of Layla's press conference, the air thick with cigarette smoke and the hum of cheap beer taps. She stood by the bar, adrenaline still pumping, her leather jacket slung over one shoulder, curls wild around her face. Caleb was beside her, his arm brushing hers, his eyes locked on her like she'd just hung the moon. The crowd, locals, reporters, a few Hart Industries stragglers, milled around, their voices a low roar. But all Layla could hear was her own heartbeat, steady and fierce. She'd thrown Ethan's lies back in his face, owned her story, and damn if it didn't feel good. "You didn't have to do that," Caleb said, voice low, leaning close so only she could hear. His breath tickled her ear, sending a shiver down her spine. "The baby, our baby. You could have kept it quiet." She turned to him, meeting his gaze, her brown eyes sharp. "Yeah, I did. Ethan wanted to use it, twist it. I ain't giving him that power. It's mine, ours, and I'm done hiding." He nodded, slow, his hand finding hers under the bar, squeezing tight. "You're the strongest damn woman I know, Layla Jackson." "Damn right," she shot back, smirking, but her chest ached with the weight of it, 20 years of buried pain laid bare for the world. She took a swig of her beer, the cold bite grounding her, then glanced at him. "What's next, Hart? Company's gone. Ethan's toast. You still got a plan?" He leaned back, running a hand through his messy hair, the faintest grin tugging at his lips. "Start over. Smaller this time. Something real. Maybe tech for folks like us. From Macon, from the bottom. You in?" She laughed, short and sharp. "You asking me to be your partner or your girlfriend?" "Both," he said, dead serious, his blue eyes piercing through her. "I ain't doing it without you." Her breath caught, the bar fading around them. She wanted to say yes. Hell, she felt yes. But the wreckage of Hart Industries still smoked in her mind, Ethan's video still a knife in her gut. Before she could answer, Tanya pushed through the crowd, her braids swinging, a grin splitting her face. "Girl, you just became a damn legend," Tanya said, clapping Layla on the shoulder. "Twitter's calling you the Macon Queen. Reporters want interviews. CNN, even." Layla groaned, setting her beer down. "I ain't no queen. Just pissed off." "Pissed off and badass," Tanya corrected, then glanced at Caleb. "You holding up, rich boy? Your brother's mugs all over the news, cuffs and all." Caleb's grin faded, his jaw tightening. "Yeah, FBI's got him in custody. Extradition's next. He's still spewing shit, but Layla's docs are gold. Might keep me out of jail." "Might?" Layla cut in, arching a brow. "You better be damn sure, Caleb. I didn't just bare my soul for you to end up in a cell." He chuckled, the sound rough but warm, pulling her closer. "Paul's on it. We're good. For now." "For now," she echoed, but let him hold her, his hand warm on her hip. The bar's noise swallowed them up, and for a minute, it was just them. Two kids from Macon against the world. But the minute didn't last. Her phone buzzed on the bar, an unknown number flashing. She grabbed it, gut clenching, and opened the text. "Nice show, Layla. Tell Caleb to check his email. Game's not over." Her blood ran cold. She shoved the phone at Caleb, who read it, his face hardening. "Ethan?" he muttered, pulling out his own phone. He opened his inbox, and there it was, an email from an encrypted address sent an hour ago. "You think you're clean, little brother? Look at the Cayman accounts, 2018. Your signature's on 'em. Enjoy the fall." Attached was a PDF. Bank statements, transactions, Caleb's name in black and white. "Fuck," he breathed, scrolling fast, his hand trembling. "This can't be real. I never—" Layla grabbed the phone, scanning it herself. Dates, amounts, a trail leading back to him. "He set you up," she said, voice low, fury bubbling. "Years ago. Planted this shit to take you down if he ever had to." Caleb sank onto a bar stool, head in his hands. "I signed stuff back then. Deals, approvals. Trusted him. If this holds up, I'm fucked, Layla. Prison fucked." She stood over him, fists clenched, then yanked him up by his shirt. "No, you ain't. We're fighting this. Call Paul. Now." He nodded, dazed, dialing as she paced, her mind racing. Paul picked up, voice crackling through the speaker. "Caleb, what's—" "New evidence," Caleb cut in, voice tight. "Ethan's pinning Cayman accounts on me. Docs look legit." Paul cursed, papers rustling on his end. "Send 'em over. If it's forged, we'll prove it. If it's real, we'll figure it out. Sit tight." Caleb hung up, staring at the floor, but Layla grabbed his face, forcing him to look at her. "We ain't sitting tight. We're ending this. Ethan's playing dirty from a jail cell. He's got help. Chloe, maybe. Someone." "Oh, you're right," he said, snapping out of it, his eyes clearing. "We need to move fast." They left the bar. rain pelting them as they climbed into his SUV, Layla's mind spinning a plan. "Take me to Hart Industries," she said, buckling in. "I know where to look." He shot her a glance, rain streaking his windshield. "The office? It's a crime scene. FBI's got it locked down." "I don't mean the exec floor," she said, smirking. "Cleaning crews got keys to the basement, storage, old files." "Ethan's sloppy. Bet he left something." Caleb grinned, fierce and wild, and floored it. The building loomed dark when they pulled up, a single security guard nodding them through. Layla's old crew badge still worked. Downstairs, the basement was a maze of boxes, dust thick in the air. She led him to a corner she'd stumbled on months ago. Unlabeled files, forgotten trash. They tore through it, her hands shaking as she pulled out a ledger, yellowed and scrawled with Ethan's handwriting. Dates matched the Cayman docks, but the signatures were off. Ethan's, not Caleb's. "Holy shit," Caleb breathed, holding it up. "This clears me. He faked my sign-off." Layla grinned, triumphant, but then froze. A shadow moved behind them, heels clicking on concrete. Chloe stepped into the dim light, blonde hair sleek, a smirk on her lips, a flash drive in her hand. "Looking for this?" she purred, twirling it. "Ethan said you'd sniff around. Too late, though. I've got the originals." "One call and the feds get 'em." Layla lunged, but Chloe danced back, laughing. "Easy, sweetheart. You're out of your league." Caleb grabbed Layla's arm, voice low. "What's your price, Chloe? Ethan's done. You're backing a loser." Chloe's smirk faltered, her eyes flicking between them. "1 million. Cash. Tonight." "Deal," Caleb said, fast, pulling out his phone. "Bank's closed, but I've got crypto. Transferring now." Layla glared, but he squeezed her hand. "Trust me." Chloe checked her phone, nodding as the payment hit, then tossed the drive. "Pleasure doing business. Tell Ethan I'm out." She vanished into the dark, and Layla snatched the drive, heart pounding. "You just paid her $1 million?" "Worth it," he said, grinning, pulling her close. "You're worth it." Back at his penthouse, they plugged the drive in. Audio files, Ethan's voice bragging about framing Caleb, Chloe giggling in the background. Paul whooped when they sent it over, promising it'd bury Ethan for good. Caleb turned to Layla, pulling her into his lap, his hands sliding under her jacket. "We did it," he murmured, kissing her neck, slow and hot. She arched into him, fingers in his hair, the tension snapping as they tore at each other's clothes. He lifted her, pinning her against the wall, her legs wrapping around him as he thrust into her, hard and deep, her moans echoing off the glass. It was victory, raw and primal, their bodies slamming together, sweat and rain mixing on their skin. She came first, nails raking his back, and he followed, groaning her name, collapsing against her. They slid to the floor, panting, tangled, the city quiet below. "Marry me," he rasped, out of nowhere, his hand on her face. She laughed, breathless, then stopped, seeing his eyes, serious, shining. "You're crazy." "Crazy for you," he said, kissing her soft. "Say yes, Layla." She stared at him, heart slamming, then nodded, slow and sure. "Yes, you dumbass." He grinned, pulling her close, and they lay there, the world theirs again. Days later, Ethan's trial began. Guilty pleas piling up, Caleb cleared. The company sold off in pieces. They moved to Macon, a small house by that oak tree, starting a tech co-op for locals like them. Gritty, real, built from scratch. One night, under the stars, they fucked on the grass, slow and sweet, her skin glowing under the moon, his hands worshipping her. It wasn't riches, wasn't power. It was them, unbroken. Hey, y'all. Layla and Caleb beat the odds. What did you think of their wild ride? Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment. Where you watching from, Macon, Atlanta, or beyond? Thanks for sticking with us. See you next time.